Are we all to blame for crime, homelessness, drug addiction, joblessness, and other societal woes? Well, that's what we're philosophizing about at the Lecture Center. Friends, welcome and thanks for joining us for yet another thought-provoking discourse that is about life and society. Unless your head is in the clouds, I would say that most of us are well aware of our societal dilemmas. The question is, who do we blame? It has been said that in order to solve the problem of homelessness, we need to build more housing, lower the cost of housing, subsidize rent, and provide mental health services. We have employed the government to implement all of the above because it's popular belief that it is the job of the government to tackle societal issues. But is it? I ask because nowadays I don't think people really think about this. It has been assumed for years that it's the government's job to take care of the people. In the last 100 years, we have not witnessed anything different. Ever since the implementation of FDR's New Deal, the government has pledged to bail out the people. Some of these programs have included public housing, Social Security, the FDA, and even more. These programs were initially instituted to grant relief to Americans after the Great Depression. Now, the essential question remains. It's not really about the specific nature of the programs per se, but about the efficacy of the programs. I think it's plain to see that the modern version of the New Deal is in effect today, and it was the inspiration for LBJ's Great Society. Of course, this doesn't mean that there were no social programs prior to the New Deal. Friends, welfare has always existed throughout the world, and society has largely advocated for it because it has been a sense of security for those who would otherwise be left to their own devices. But is that so bad? What's wrong with people being left to fend for themselves? Why do some think that a handout is in the best interest of a person? Does a person not determine the life that they have? I mean, don't people make their own choices? And because they make their own choices, they are in fact the author of their life and the consequences that incur as a result of their independent action. So why is it the duty of the government, and my duty, to subsidize cost of living expenses indefinitely? And I think that's a fair question. The philosopher Ayn Rand, who was a staunch critic of the welfare state, believed that the redistribution of wealth, or handouts to those who did not earn what they worked for, or shall I say what they didn't work for, was immoral. Similarly, I would argue that it's not the moral duty of those who are earning to indefinitely contribute to this flawed system. And it's a system that steals from its contributors. Now, some of the proponents of welfare will push back and say that some of my claims are inaccurate and are plain invalid, especially since I'm not citing any kind of stats. They feel it's the moral obligation of us as a society to take care of others. After all, that is who we are and what we do, right? That's what we do here in this country, in the America. How could we not care for the destitute? You see, they will often use the misfortune of children or the elderly as reason to sustain this perpetual system of thievery. But this is not an answer to the original question that I proposed, nor is it solving the problem. What is it that they're trying to do? Do they actually want solvency? If we take a look at the world, we will find that there is imperfection everywhere. There are unpleasant circumstances, people are mentally ill, they are impoverished, and their spirits are broken. It seems that no matter how many programs are created or money allocated to these programs, the problem still persists. It's also apparent that we want it that way. This is so because without societal woes, how could the moralists prove themselves upright? Charity and social programs are not solving problems. They are, in fact, fostering a society of dependents and entitled people who think that we owe them something. This is the most horrible thing. It's not love, nor is it empowering. It is anti-God, anti-nature, anti-work, and a total disregard to those who genuinely want to do the right thing. Furthermore, It's also a blatant disrespect to those who do share conflicting values. People like me who believe in self-determinism. You see, there are contrary beliefs stating that people are victims of life circumstances, and therefore that is why we are justified in providing for people with a free-for-all. The United States is one of the most philanthropic and charitable nations in the world. It's no wonder the world is coming in droves, eager to cross our borders illegally. We're promising food, shelter, clothing, and stipends to people who have contributed absolutely nothing to the country. Yet this is believed to be the definition of social justice. How can this be fair? There is no law in the land that supports getting something for nothing. Giving and receiving is a universal law, and those who do not give should not receive. But again, the argument will be, but there are those who cannot give because they have nothing to give, and that is why it is our moral obligation to give to them. Friends, that is indeed what we are doing. We are giving, and it's costing us big time. The welfare state is estimated to cost $1 trillion per year, and you better believe that is a generous figure. In the midst of an illegal migrant crisis, these figures are quickly rising. And who is really talking about it? My question is, how are we going to foot the bill for all of these moochers? I say this because it may be decades before they can actually contribute to society. That is, if they choose to, because the system does not encourage people to become independent. That is why it is expanding. Friends, this is disastrous, and effects are destructive to the very soul of a people. Let's look at the evidence that lies before our eyes. How is the welfare state uplifting the people who partake in it? If we really want to help people, shouldn't we champion self-betterment? But no, that's not what this is about. This is really about the economic, moral, and spiritual degradation of men, women, and children. Make no mistake about it, those who think they are getting over or somehow benefiting from this, really they're being enslaved, and they have no idea what is happening to them. By remaining on social services for a prolonged state, it destroys one's zest for life. In other words, there is no desire to achieve, accomplish, or be anything. It is a killer of the human spirit because it destroys the desire to make anything better of oneself. And that is because there is simply no need to do so. Friends, there is a stark difference between breathing and being. The former is involuntary, and the latter involves will and determination. I don't know about you, but I want more for myself than mere survival. That is why I believe working is critical. Handouts do not promote a culture of work and contribution. Without contribution, we cannot make progress. And this is where we are. This is what is happening. And that's the real reason for economic stagnation. But this isn't just about money. It's about real virtue as opposed to false. Now, how can we differentiate? Friends, true virtue edifies people. It does not keep people enslaved to a degraded condition. We have been made to feel committed to a cause that is not serving our needs or the needs of our fellow men. Those who are insisting that we continue to take care of others who fail to contribute to society say that this is virtuous. Virtuous in the sense that it is our duty to take care of the destitute. Now let's circle back. Whose problem is this? Is it my problem that you're a single mother with 4 children and are food insecure? Is it my problem that you're a 2-time felon and you were just released from jail without a job or stable home? Is it my problem that you suffered trauma as a child and now you're a junkie? Why do I have to feed, clothe, and house you? This is not mean. It's not about being mean-spirited. It's not about being callous. This is dealing with reality. The moralists assert that it is society's fault for the adverse conditions that affect some people in life. They say we have failed those of color. We have failed the homeless. We have failed the jobless. We have failed those in impoverished communities. But again, how have you or I failed groups of people. This accusation comes from an evil place, and I reject it because nobody is in a position to judge my heart. I have another question. Are people mounds of dirt or individual grains of sand? Do groups have individuals with names and feelings? Or are they lumped together, nameless and without an identity at all? Collectivist views stem from the belief that we are all responsible for the failures and successes of the group. The group does not identify anyone within it as an individual. What we are talking about here is actually one mind, one body, and one person, or as the proverb states, a village. The moralists say that we are to be accountable for the village, and in fact, we are to blame for the failures of the village. Therefore, systemic racism, transphobia, sexism, and whatever other ism are indeed our fault. And that is the reason for the failure of those groups to thrive. Friends, this is a damning accusation, and of course it comes from the mouth of the sanctimonious moralists. Why are we accepting this? Why are we allowing a flawed creature to accuse any one of us of being evil? Who the hell do these people think they are? And why are they continuing to dictate the laws of the land? Their outlook is primitive and does not correspond nor prove to be successful in an advanced contemporary society. Perhaps their collectivist views would be beneficial to the Brazilian tribe residing in the Amazon, because they need to rely on each other for survival. But in a modern world, this is unnecessary. In order to be successful in an advanced society, people must work for self-betterment. It is the work of the individual alongside the society at large that thrusts us forward. The moralists and the collectivists assert that this is selfish. They believe that individualism is evil and leaves the downtrodden behind. Yet again, why is that our problem? Do these people not make their own choices? Are they incapacitated? Don't they choose to lie down and get pregnant or take a needle to their vein? I dare somebody to say no. Friends, what we have here is a conflict that is age-old. There are those who refuse to embrace modernity and New Age thinking. They are afraid of the demands of life. They reject advancement of any kind. That is why they fear new technologies. They are weak. They want to depend on others, and they want others to provide their sustenance in the world. They use their so-called disenfranchisement to extort wealth and wield their moral superiority to solidify their existence. We are afraid of the moral condemnation from them. They judge us and tell us how we ought to think and what we should do. And if we do not embrace their thinking, we are deemed racist and non-inclusive and downright evil. Friends, I'm a product of the free world where opportunity is at my fingertips. I'm the author of my destiny, and at will I can create my future. I am not a victim of anyone or anything, and this is my life, and I will take the wheel. Therefore, it is my sole responsibility to accept accountability for my failure and accomplishment. This is not to say that people should be left by the wayside. Oh no, that's not who I am. I say that it is up to each of us to better ourselves, both inward and out, so that we can be in a better position to teach others how to help themselves. Instead of perpetual handouts, let's teach others how to overcome the vicissitudes of life. That is much more dignified, and that is how we get ahead in the first world. And with all of this said, I'm not anti-social programs. The issue is that these programs do not dignify or edify people. And these programs seem to have no threshold, thus holding people hostage to them for generations. Lastly, I feel that we deserve to be able to opt out of Social Security and other programs if we want to. These programs hold the givers and the recipients eternally indebted to them. I believe that we can use what seems to be negative to our advantage if we genuinely care about uplifting others. Currently, the most successful people in the country are ahead of their time. They're innovative and on top of their game. They're willing to learn from others, and they're not afraid to take risks. Friends, if you desire to remain stagnant and object to self-improvement, You cannot expect to reach great heights. A mediocre person can have a mediocre life. And guess what? Nothing is wrong with that, if that's what you desire. But this isn't really about those people. It's about the people who think that they are owed blood because they are supposed victims of life circumstances. My message to them is that there are no victims in life. We are all dealt cards, and it's up to each person to accept that card. Life is what you make of it. If you decide to check out of your own life, don't look for me to take care of you. At what point do we say we have given and given? When will the homeless, drug-addicted, single mothers, and formerly incarcerated get it together? Well, according to the moralist, once a victim, forever a victim. Though the moralists or do-gooders would have no purpose in our society without the downtrodden, they are nothing but pawns that function to make themselves look good in the eyes of men. And again, I pose the question, what is all of this really about? It is about perhaps solving problems, or is it, I should say, about creating a perpetual societal underclass to serve as the fodder of the self-righteous moralists? Friends, I need you to ponder on that. I need you to ask yourself the questions. If this content is refreshing and you want more, please like the channel by subscribing. Thank you. Until next time.